I am Senator Mohamed Ali Ndume, representing Borno South, and I am, with other colleagues, the sponsor of this motion, which is the urgent need to correct misconception regarding purported Christian genocide narrative in Nigeria and the international community. I want to state here also that some of my colleagues' names have been missing, and I think that should be reflected after the motion in the votes and proceedings. So I'll go ahead to read the motion, which is the urgent need to correct misconception regarding purported Christian genocide narrative in Nigeria and the international community. The Senate is aware that Nigeria is a multi-ethnic, multi-religious federation whose unity and stability depends on mutual respect, tolerance, and accurate representation of its national realities. Concerned about the increasing circulation, both domestically and internationally, of the narrative alleging an ongoing Christian genocide in Nigeria, amplified by some advocacy groups, foreign media, and religious networks. Also concerned that such narrative, though often arising from genuine concern, risks oversimplifying Nigeria's security challenges, deepening sectorial suspicion, and creating negative perception of the country in the international community. Note that Nigeria continues to face insurgency, terrorism, banditry, communal violence, and criminal attacks, which have tragically claimed the lives of both Christians and Muslims. Just few examples. In Plateau in July, violent attacks on farming community, predominantly Christian, led to over deaths of 20 or more and destruction of properties. In Katsina, Zamfara, and even Sokoto and Kebbi, there has been reported killings recently of Muslims, mainly, and in fact, in some instances, in a mosque that is in their prayer place. In Borno State, my state, recently, over 53 people, all Muslims, were killed in Dar es Jamal. Just last week, in my local government, Kirawa which constitutes majority Muslims, about 95 or more %, were completely displaced and they had to run to Cameroon. Unfortunately, it was reported that they were Christians. And I don't think there are Christians among them because I'm from that local government. In Kaduna State, we have this issue of banditry in Kaduna South particularly, but not directed to a particular religion. So we also note that the Nigerian Constitution of the Federal Republic, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, guarantees freedom of religion, equal protection under law, and obliges the states to protect lives and properties of citizens irrespective of faith and ethnicity. Recognizes the importance of transparent communication, interfaith solidarity, and fact-based reporting in countering extremist propaganda and preventing sectarian division. Mindful of the recent discussion in the United States particularly, and United States Senate and Congress particularly on religious freedom, including moves to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern, which is known as CPC. And I want to state here that Nigeria was placed on that by the current president, Donald Trump. And it was during the government of Biden that Nigeria was removed. The implication of this is somewhat, and I hope my colleagues will understand that. Then affirm that while Nigeria faces security challenges, these are not defined by religion alone, but by complex mix of terrorism, criminality, and social economic factors. Accordingly, urge the federal government through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, security agencies, and other relevant stakeholders to enhance transparent and data-driven public communication, providing verified casual figures and the context, and counter the misinformation. For example, what I read about the submission of Ted Cruz was that over 50,000 Christians were killed. But to me, it may be more or it may be less. But the UNDP authentically gave the figure from 2009 to date as 350,000 deaths occurred as a result of Boko Haram terrorists and all that attack. 2, call on religious leaders, civil societies organizations, and Nigerian media, as well as foreign media, to communicate responsibly, avoiding language that could inflame sectorial division while fostering dialogue, unity, and mutual trust. Example of this is just yesterday, the CAN made a statement that it is not true. The same thing today, there's social media information going around that Christians are being persecuted. This is coming originally from the American Senate, and this Senate or the National Assembly have a responsibility. Now, 3, mandate the Committee on Foreign Affairs, National Security to collaborate with executive in developing a coordinated national communication strategy to present accurate information on security and interfaith relations. Engage constructively, and that is very important, Mr. Senate President, distinguished colleagues. This is coming from the US Congress originally. On the 2nd of October, the Canadian Parliament also expressed concern through their leaders. The House had passed a resolution on this matter, Resolution 594 in the US Congress, and it has also been referred to their Foreign Relations Committee. Andrew Scheer, who is the leader of the opposition in the Canadian Parliament, brought this matter forward on the 2nd of October 2025. The US Congress Foreign Affairs Committee have been given that responsibility in March. Ted Cruz, most recently, and some others, 5 senators, all Republicans, have also led their colleagues in condemning.
What page? What page is that?
Sir?
What page?
It's additional information.
I didn't hear you.
Okay, you need it?
What page? What page are you reading now?
It's additional information.
But you should give us a written. You should give us a written document. You are debating your own motion.
Yes. No, I'm not debating. I'm providing more information.
No, but it should be in writing.
Okay.
I think we should first stick to what you have on paper. So
okay.
Until we go into debate. Because
okay, and lastly, I'm even done, Mr. President.
Okay. Then I thank you.
Promote interfaith peace-building programs that emphasize shared experiences and losses. And then finally, urge the federal government to ensure justice and accountability for the victims of violent attacks, irrespective of religion, ethnicity, as a means of addressing impunity, promoting reconciliation, and strengthening public confidence in the institution. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, before I stand, and you said this, I should stick to the information on the motion. But as I want to say, Mr. President, if some of us know or some of us don't know, as I stand before you, I am a product of both religion. My mother is a Christian.
I thought we should have a seconder. Let somebody second this motion. Then we can now subject it
Would
to
I have the chance
debates.
again to talk about it?
No. The procedure.
Okay. So be it.
It's a motion.
I therefore move the motion that this Senate needs to urgently correct the misinformation on the purported Christian genocide narrative in Nigeria and in the international community. I so move.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, my dear colleagues. My name is Suleiman Abrahaman Kawu Sumaila, representing Kano South Senatorial District from Kano. Mr. President, I am one of the co-sponsors of this motion, and I 100% align myself with the content and prayer of this motion. Mr. President, I believe, and it is very common knowledge to us, that nobody is supporting crime or any act of terrorism in Nigeria. The government and the good people of Nigeria are doing their own best to make sure that we are living in a very peaceful and conducive atmosphere. In our constituencies, which may surprise some of Nigerians, is that I have so many Christians in my own constituency, over 50 churches from my own constituency, and we are living peacefully with them. There was nobody is complaining. And they are from Kano. They have their churches. When you go to Kano, even the municipality of Kano, you will find out that there are so many churches and Christian center, and they are doing their activities day in, day out. And in some cases, our governors or previous governors are in one way or the other join hands with them to provide security to entire Kano. Some of the leaders of Kano in my own state are members of the Security Council, and they are members of our traditional institution. They are doing their own best. It is a surprise for us to hear a Congress like United States Congress, where all of us were frauding, to come up with this kind of bill, where most of Nigerians are very ignorant on the content and the intent of the bill, which, with your permission, Mr. President, I will read the prayer or the intent of the bill, which if for any reason they pass it, it will be a very dangerous to us, both the Christian and Muslim. One, the bill is Nigeria Religious Freedom Accountability Act of 2025. Specifically will impose targeted sanctions against Nigerians officials who facilitate violence against Christians and other religious minorities, including by Islamic terrorist group. Impose targeted sanctions against Nigerians officials who enforce Sharia and blasphemy laws in their state. Requires the Secretary of State to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern. Country of particular concern. Then requires the Secretary of State to ensure that Boko Haram and the ISIS West Africa remain designated and the entities of particular concern, which we all agree. We condemn their activity. We are not in support of what they are doing, and we all agree that what they are doing is un-Islamic. It is not in line with the Islamic norm and culture. And finally, sir, I am seriously worried if a parliament like US Congress or a senator, per se, a higher ranking senator or a higher ranking member of the Congress will come up with a very uninformed position. With me, sir, I have 50 places where militia or non-state actors attack Muslim when they are observing religious activities. 50, it is here, sir. We don't have time to read it. And finally, we have some places, almost 10 places from 2015 to today, where mistakenly, the Nigerian Air Force attacked and killed so many Muslims. The recent one is in Kaduna. They are coming from Maulud. 120 innocent Nigeria, men and women. We are there to commiserate with them in Borno and in so many places. It is still fresh in our mind. In 2014, when a terrorist bombed Jumat mosque in Kano, where over 250 people died. We have all the documents with us, and I think as a parliament, we must take a position and we must join hands with the government to inform the US and the US Congress that the position they are taking is not in tandem with the reality of what is going on. And we condemn criminal acts, we condemn terrorists, we are not in support of them, and we will do everything possible to make sure that we have a peaceful Nigeria. And finally, I am commending our clergies, more especially Khan, who yesterday issued a statement, and so many well-meaning Nigerians who show their concern on this issue. I saw supported and second this very important motion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Colleagues, my name is Jimo Folorunso Ibrahim, representing Ondo South. I'm in alignment with the burial submission in respect of this bill, this motion. But let me just make a short comment. We need to engage knowledge at this time to understand the strategy of the terrorists. We must come to terms to understand the strategy of the terrorists and their praxis. And I think, Mr. Senate President, there might be need for us to have a closed session because it's a security matter. So distilment of fundamental information that are very secret cannot be said here openly. We need to understand the tactics and the praxis of the terrorists. And we must now engage the executive about counterterrorism, because the argument is that most of the launch counterterrorism approach are not sufficient enough to actually engage the terrorists. The summary of my submission is that unless we can place in proper perspective the strategy of the terrorists, it will be difficult, Mr. Senate President, unless we engage knowledge and know the strategy of the terrorists. It will be difficult for us to actually suggest what counter-terrorism strategy that you engage to get this thing out of us. It's not a sympathy matter. The moment the United States Senate knows that we are doing this engagement, then obviously speaking, they cannot pass anything over there. The key thing, the summary of my submission is that we must engage knowledge, one, to understand the strategy of the terrorists. If we get that one documented and we know it very well, we must now know what counter-terrorism are we going to use before we go to dissemination of information and political propagandas and all the rest. Life is priceless, Mr. Senate President. And I must thank you again for approving security summits in this Senate, being headed by Senator Okoyemi also. And I think this is very important. But before I take my seat, I must say clearly, it is not all the matters that we know of that we can discuss here. We must go into executive session to particularly to define and redefine our counterterrorism. I'm just back from the United Nations Counterterrorism Conference, and I was able to persuade the participants there from about 180 countries that our counterterrorism approach adopted by Mr. President in respect of Rivers State was the best to do, because we cannot allow Nigeria, to be a battleground for intervention engagement arising from insufficient security from outsider. And they agree with me, but they were able to get the information that the executive counterterrorism was not lawless. And I challenge them, mention one person that was killed in Rivers State within the 6 months of state of emergency. That means our counterterrorism works very well there. In this matter, on this motion, Mr. Senate President, there is need to engage knowledge. Let's revert back to executive session at appropriate time to discuss and evaluate terrorist strategy. Then we will be able to define counter-terrorism strategy that we will adopt to make, it's not a matter of Christian or Muslim or whatever. Once we do this, we have a better way to go. Thank you very much for this short snap. Thank you.
Well, that is Professor Ibrahim, PhD warfare. So I think somebody suggested that we ought to have gone into executive session to discuss this. But I don't think we can win. No group can win any discussion on this, because it depends on the state you are looking at. If terrorism occurs in a Christianly dominated state, most people that will die there will be Christians. If it occurs in a Muslim-dominated state, most of those who will die there will be Muslims. But if it occurs particularly in the North Central, you will notice that it will be targeted at maybe churches, because that is what they are able to get. And then at the end, they will say, oh, it's Muslims that kill Christians. If it happens in Kano or Borno, they will say Christians kill Muslims. So the way the whole situation is that we still need to go into executive session and get a date for our security summit, so we can have close discussion on these matters. What is happening in the United States is of concern to Nigeria. It's of concern to the Christians, it's of concern to the Muslims. Because the moment they bring sanctions to breed poverty. Poverty knows no religion. So for me, engagement will be the best. So when we go into executive session, we can decide to set up a small ad hoc committee to go to United States or America and engage our colleague parliamentarians there. And then to also educate them. Because if you see what these people are doing, most of them are outsiders. when they come and start spraying bullets from GP, what do you call it, or they throw rocket, they are not throwing rocket into the crowd, targeting a particular religion. They are killing Nigerians. I don't know who will now go and sit down and bring out maybe the dead bodies and say, this one is a Christian, this one is from this family, this must be a Muslim. So we are facing a situation whereby these terrorists are trying to terminate the lives of Nigerians. And then, of course, frustrate us from going into the farms, producing food to feed ourselves. So this discussion will be better in a closed session. And I think at the end of the day, we should actually have a small team that should visit our colleagues and also put the other side. Because some people must have gone there to give a one-sided story. And at the end, it will now look as if only Christians are being killed by terrorists in Nigeria. But I can tell you that a lot of Muslims have lost their lives in the last 5-10 years. The same way Christians have also lost their lives. So my personal opinion is that Nigerians have lost their lives as a result of insurgencies, banditry, and others. So if you look at what is happening in the Southeast, predominantly Christians, most of those that are killed in the Southeast, including the late husband of our demised icon, Dora Akunyili, the way the man was shot dead and everything, will you come and ascribe that to religion? I'm talking about what IPOP is doing. You see brothers killing brothers. Okay, so the sit-at-home that is going on Mondays in the Southeast that has almost crippled the economy of the Southeast. Is it targeted at Christians or Muslims? So Nigeria has complex security situations, and we should actually go out there and educate people so that they will know what to do. But when they just come out with a one-sided motion, it means they have a target, and that target is to strangulate the economy of Nigeria. That's my personal opinion. So it's left to us as a parliament to take proactive actions and be strategic in our response. If we stay here to give figures and instances where Muslims were killed or where Christians were killed, then we are not helping the situation. Ours should be, what do we do to ensure what Senator Jimoh Ibrahim said, counter terrorism? How do we respond to the guerrilla tactics of the terrorists, whether internal or external aggressors? So let's go into the prayers. Is there anybody that is opposed to this motion? Distinguished Senator Alain Dume for bringing this motion to the fore, and to say that if we restrict ourselves to the prayers here, we will tend to miss the point. The issues are too complex. The actions of the international community, very worrisome and capable of having adverse effects on Nigerians of all faiths and the economy of the country. It's also capable of affecting the dignity of Nigerians wherever they go to. Therefore, we must have a strategy to approach this issue. And so, Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, that was well spoken. My motion actually will be one to say that we recognize that this motion has been thoroughly debated, and that no member of this Senate is opposed to this motion. However, in view of the sensitivity of the issues involved, I would just say that let our resolution here today on the basis of this motion be that as a Senate, it is our conviction that the insecurity problem, the insecurity challenge in Nigeria is not religion-driven. And having said that, as a resolution on the basis of our discussion here, that we will now step down further consideration of this motion, especially the prayers, till the next legislative day, which is Tuesday next week, when we can have our executive session, to discuss these prayers as well as other related matters, and also our impending security summit, and possible delegation that we will be sending to the international community. I believe these are things that we need to resolve in an executive session, and then we'll be able to take a final decision, and then you can come back to plenary to report progress on our discussion in that regard. But again, I say that let it be resolved that this Senate is totally in support of this motion, and it is the view of this Senate that our insecurity challenge in Nigeria is not religion-driven. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator.
I represent Bauchi Central. Based on the position adequately raised by the Senate leader, I second the motion most appropriately that this motion is unanimously agreed, adopted, but proper reaction to this motion should be stepped down until when we have an executive session on Tuesday next week to come up with appropriate mechanisms in dealing with this matter, as criminality and crisis in Nigeria is not driven by religious sentiment. I so second, Mr. President.
And accepted by the Senate, but further legislative actions should be postponed to Tuesday next week, when we can have executive sessions to have a comprehensive discussion on ways and means of responding to the international threats to Nigeria, particularly where insecurity in Nigeria is multifaceted and not only religious-driven, but very complex, so that we can come up with a proper strategy that will not only address the issues, but also clean the image of Nigeria, so that we don't criminalize any particular section or any particular religion. Those in support of this submission say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So we thank Senator Ndume for bringing this to the fore. We have noted it. We will go into executive session on Tuesday, sit down and discuss the strategy of engagement and our response, so that it will be multifaceted, and other areas will have been consulted, such as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Presidency and others, so that we know ways to address the proposed bills in United States, Canada, or any other place. And particularly, we know how to address the views of the international community and assuage the feelings of Nigerians, because Nigeria is a multi-ethnic, multi-religious society. So I thank all of you. Leader of the Senate.
Please leave. Come on. Oh, look at this man.